sexuality.
Hello, and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the show where we help you to rebuild, recreate your sexuality bigger, stronger, faster than it was before. Joining me, as always, is Bianca.
Hello.
And back with us again is Dr. Darrel Ray. Darrel, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to be talking tonight about Darrel's project, Recovering from Religion, and their upcoming fall excursion. He's got sort of a special preview all set up for us. We're going to be talking about one of the exercises, one of the workshops that y'all do, and just kind of going over all of the great opportunities of this event and everything the foundation is doing. So we would love to hear from you. We're at 512-686-0279 as we kind of go back to that well of just recognizing how much damage, how much trauma religion can do specifically to our sex lives and to romance and love and all of these kinds of functions. So we're very excited to hear your questions and give you a chance to grill the doctor. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started.
Sounds good.
So Darrel, remind everybody, I know regular viewers of this show are going to be familiar with Recovering from Religion, but just hit us with the basics of what it is, how it got started, and what you're so excited about.
Well, we are an organization that we're the only organization on the planet that will help you out of religion. There's lots of them that help you into religion, but we claim to be the only one that will help you out of religion.
Are we excluding, I guess, like all strip clubs and Pornhub and none of that counts? This is specifically for that purpose. Got it.
Actually, strip clubs may be our allies. I mean,
There you go.
But we started about almost exactly a little over 10 years ago. And we help anybody deal with their trauma and consequences of leaving any religion throughout the world. In fact, we have a chat line and a helpline, we call it. And we had chats from 24 different countries last month. And we're setting new records for the number of people chatting in as people learn about us through shows like this. And we get to talk to people about leaving Jehovah's Witnesses, leaving Mormonism, leaving Catholicism, leaving Baptist, leaving Islam. We about a quarter of our chats recently have been from Islamic countries where it's very dangerous to of course, even talk to us. So we have certain protocols to try and protect them in the process. But anyway, well, that's kind of what the overview of what recoveringfromreligion.org is.
Well, sure, and it's so important to remember. I know many of the folks in this audience can relate that once you leave religion and you go through that process of kind of wrestling with it in your mind and you finally kind of admit it to yourself, maybe you begin to admit it to others, that you may potentially be losing not just your worldview, but also your social network, your family connections, your sense of a holiday and the calendar and just the routine and the bubble of your life. So all of that can come crashing down, and this is really a safe landing point for a lot of folks to get connected to other resources and just rebuild that community.
Yeah, we see it almost like a safe halfway house between religion and wherever else you're going to go with your life. Because religion plans your life out for you and tells you what you should and shouldn't do. And some people just really enjoy that. I mean, that's not a bad thing for some people, I guess. But once people realize it's like a velvet trap, they then, once they move out, then they realize, how do I reconnect my life? How do I find a new community? So we have local groups that meet on a monthly basis or even more often, and we'll help connect people to groups. We can help people with getting psychotherapy with the Psychotherapy Project, which is a part of Recovery from Religion as well, of course. So all those things are services that we provide, and they're all free. We don't charge a dime for anything that we do, because we fund all this just through the donations of people. Find people who give us a few bucks every month.
Yeah,
So,
that's certainly an important question for
Yeah.
folks who have, I guess, gotten past that stage or find themselves in a much stronger situation. What can people watching right now do to get involved, to offer support? I mean, I know y'all offer a number of remote resources and different kinds of volunteer and donation opportunities.
right. Well, they can go to the website and hit the donate button, because we're always looking for funds. And
Sure.
we can't support our clients without the funds to keep things running.
Mhm.
But we also are always looking for volunteers. We need volunteers that will help us on our chat line,
Hmm.
on our phone lines, and develop local groups in local communities. So, and there's other little corners and things that we need things done. So, no matter what your skill set, you've probably got something that you could offer and would help support people who are leaving religion. I just literally before, like 20 minutes ago, hung up from a phone call
Mhm.
from Australia. Now, this is the fun thing. This is an ex-Jehovah's Witness woman who, she and her husband and some other people got together and said, we need to help people who are leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. And they started thinking through all this stuff. They didn't even hardly know who we were or what we do. And they created this whole idea of supporting Jehovah's Witnesses. Then they find out about us and they call us up, and we have this long conversation, just an hour, less than 20 minutes ago, I hung up. And what we're finding is we can make their whole dream come true in record time, because we've got
that's
everything
amazing.
ready.
The resources and the know-how, yeah. Well,
So,
I'll tell you
all
what,
they
I
have to
mean,
do-
well, just to say, I recommended Recovering from Religion to a client of mine just last week, and he started to write it down and realized that he had actually already written it down when his brother had recommended the exact same thing. So word is getting out, people are finding out, and it's a really exciting thing to watch grow and be a small part of.
It is just, it's just chilling. It sends chills down my spine to see how many people are starting to get served. We have doubled in size over last year,
Oh,
and
wow.
we might triple in size. It's possible, but we can only, say we've tripled in size or doubled in size. We can only do that with volunteers. Because
Mhm.
no one in our organization has paid a dime. So after I was on your show last June, and the Atheist Experience and Talk Heathen, and gosh, what am I missing? One other show. We had an explosion of clients and an explosion of volunteers. Well, those volunteers that heard about us on the Atheist Experience or on those other shows are just now finishing their training and coming on board. So we had two of them come on today, and I believe both of them said they learned about us through these shows. So it is working, and we're thrilled to get those kind of volunteers, because these are people who oftentimes have gone through this stuff themselves. They've
Right.
experienced religious trauma, and they know how hard it is to reconnect and find a new community. It's ironic. We have people chat into us from Austin, Texas. You probably know about that place. And they say, I'm the only atheist in Austin, Texas.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Well, I mean,
it's isolating.
Yeah, we don't have steeples, you know? I mean, there's not the same expectation. I don't know, maybe atheism has a branding issue, but yeah, people do tend to feel incredibly lonely. And so that's why I'm excited to be a part of the ACA, where there's a place for everybody to go and get together on a Sunday and to actually share in these conversations, to share in some of the hurts of the religious world that we live in, but also just to have a great sense of community and to kind of replace in a healthy way a lot of those things that they missed out on or lost when they left their church family or their religious family.
And for a lot of these people, this is the first time they're able to talk about their atheism with somebody else face to face.
Or even just their doubts. I mean,
Right.
within so many faith communities, just voicing any sort of well, I don't know about this, I don't understand, that can get incredibly quickly shot down.
Yep. Yeah, it's an amazing experience to talk to these people and to just be like, oh, this is the first conversation you're having with anyone about this.
Yeah.
And you're so excited.
Yeah, even though, of course, I was on all those shows, I want to be real clear. We are not an atheist organization. We are religion neutral, and we will actually send people back to church if that's what they need or want.
Yeah.
We really aren't on a front group for anybody. We're just here to help people find their own way. And if that means going back to a Unitarian church or some other organization or even New Age, I don't know. But we help point people to resources that can help meet the needs that they're having at that moment. We're not here to tell them where to go or how far to go.
Yeah, it's not about recruitment. It's about offering really first aid in a lot of ways. I mean, not even necessarily that long-term type of care, but just an opportunity to get connected to the types of services or communities or relationships that can bring healing after really traumatic religious experiences.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about the excursion or not. Is that you want to talk about that?
That was actually going to be my very next question. You said that this year has been an incredible one of growth and all these new people coming on board. And as I understand it, this is the first time to do the fall excursion, right?
Yeah, right. We call it fall excursion because we didn't want to call it a retreat.
Sure. It's kind of a loaded term for many former and current Christians. Sure.
Yeah, it sounds crazy, but we don't want to be sound like a church. But so we put this together. Actually, one of our board members, Shannon Nebo, came up with the idea, and she's leading the charge on it. And the rest of us are trying to keep up with her. She's put together this amazing event in North Carolina, and it's going to be in a beautiful mountains in these five big, beautiful lodges there in the mountains, handcrafted lodges. They're literally handmade by the owner. He and his son are like master carpenters or something.
Wow.
It's just beautiful.
It sounds beautiful. I mean, the website looks incredible, to be honest with you. Just the pictures of the cabins and everything else.
Yeah. And we've really worked hard to keep the cost down. And we've even been able, through some donations from generous donors, to subsidize a few people. And we had 50 beds available, and we've sold 60.
Some people are going to get real friendly real quick.
They'll have to bring their tent. No, there's a hotel not far away from the venue in a small town about 15 minutes away. So we're putting the late registrations there, but we're still getting registrations. And we're thrilled. I mean, we didn't know if we'd fill 50 beds. And we filled 60. It's going to be an excursion focused, or an event focused on how to recover and reclaim your sexuality and reconnect with your humanity. Mm-hmm. And we're calling it embrace your nature. That's the theme of the excursion. Embrace your nature. Well, your nature can be your sexuality, can be your own thought processes. It can be nature too, because religion usually divorces us from our connection to nature. Mm-hmm. So we're actually going to take some nature walks. I mean, just low key kind of stuff. And we're telling people you can do any of the events you want or activities. You don't have to do any of them. You can stay in bed all day. We don't care. It's not a church retreat, and you don't have to go to anything.
Not that pressure.
Yeah. But we're having some great people come in. Mandisa Thomas will be there.
Excellent.
Black non-believers. She's going to be leading our karaoke night on
amazing
Saturday night. She's a karaoke nut. And I'm going to be talking, and we'll talk about that later. I'm going to be doing a workshop on reclaiming your sexuality. Mm-hmm. Gail Jordan's going to be doing a workshop on recreating your traditions, because like you said earlier, you leave religion, you lose all those holidays and the traditions that come with that. So Gail's got some really cool ideas about how you can reclaim that ritual component and tradition component that we're humans, we love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We're 4 psychotherapists there, and one of them is going to be leading us in a workshop on how do you deal with religious trauma syndrome and reconnecting with or understanding how you got infected with religious ideas. I mean, it's just one thing after lots of possible activities. You can go as many or as few as you want. As you can tell, I'm pretty damn excited about it.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like a great time. And yeah, so you actually shared with V and I a little bit of a preview of the workshop that you're teaching. We've kind of spent the last week sort of mulling that over and going through it ourselves. But I'd be fascinated to hear you kind of just walk the audience through some of the basics of what you're going to be looking at.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, what I'm going to do is it's a really easy exercise. I hope it's easy. You guys went through it, so you can tell me. But it's a basic exercise based on ideas that come largely from cognitive behavioral therapy. Mm-hmm. I think I've told you or mentioned to you that Albert Ellis was my mentor many years ago. And I learned very first thing I learned as I was learning how to be a psychologist and counselor was cognitive behavioral therapy. But what I've appreciated about that in what we're doing is how do many people go through life not realizing that they're still carrying beliefs around that they got from religion, mm-hmm. and that those beliefs are still impacting their sexuality. So, or other aspects of their life. In fact, body image, for example, you're told from the day you're born in a religion that you're worthless. Your body is your greatest enemy. Mm-hmm.
Inherently sinful, crucify the flesh. I mean, all of these kinds of notions.
Yeah, it's an insidious message that leads to incredible mental health problems. I mean, there's no wonder that when people leave religion, they have to deal with a lot of issues that were caused by the religion itself. I mean, all those messages are really bad on your mental health. So what I'm going to be trying to do is teach people in this workshop to ask some questions about their thought processes and challenge some of those beliefs or ideas, and then give them some techniques and some methodologies for working through those ideas and putting new ideas in place. One person is I know used to say commonly that belief is just a thought, and you can change thoughts. Mm-hmm. And when you think about it, yeah, it ain't quite that easy. I understand that, but a belief is literally just a thought. So what do you do with that thought is still your business. You can manipulate the thought. You can change. You can try different ways of thinking about it around the same thought. I mean, for example, is your body really your biggest enemy? Well, if you believe that, it means you're going to probably engage in some self-destructive behaviors. I mean, you could be everything from feeling guilty about masturbating to wanting to commit suicide. I mean, any of those things, mm-hmm. that spectrum could be within the range of what religion pushes on people. So that's what I'm showing for. Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question or enough of the question.
Well, I guess I'm just really curious how you came to it. I mean, obviously, helping people sort of heal specifically their sexuality from religious mm-hmm. trauma has been, in many ways, your life's work. And mm-hmm. so I guess I'm curious, when the excursion was coming up and all of that, I mean, how did you sort of distill that down, and where did this exercise sort of come from?
Well, of course, I wrote the book Sex and God to try and force people to think about this and explore it a lot. But what I was trying to do was help people identify the root beliefs that they still hold. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy to do. People don't realize how much you just go through life. I mean, if you think about it, I don't have to think about how I drive to work. Mm-hmm. I've just, you've got it a few times, you just do it on automatic pilot. And there's a lot of things I don't have to think about. I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is let the dog out because I don't want to have to clean up the mess if he doesn't get out in time. So there's things I just automatically do, and we've trained ourselves to do that. Well, religion takes advantage of that and trains us to do certain things, like hate our bodies, like feel guilty about masturbating, like being feeling shameful if we eat too many donuts in the morning or something. I mean, there's
or
so
even
many
just
things.
about our desires.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the body is willing, but the flesh is weak, and you know, all of these ideas that your body is somehow failing you if you feel desire, if you feel anger, if you feel, you know, any kind of emotion that is wrong or that is bad.
Or if someone else feels desire for you, that's also something to feel guilty about.
Yeah, because I mean, especially as a woman, that's your fault,
Right, exactly.
If a man lusts after you in his heart,
You've done
you have
something
caused
wrong.
him to stumble.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure to be clear where the blame was. Apples and everything after.
Exactly.
But yeah, literally the very first story of the whole damn Bible is a misogynistic blaming woman for everything that happened afterwards. I mean, in the Jewish prayer, even to this day, there's men pray, thank God you didn't make me a woman. It's mind-boggling how destructive this is. And yet it just passes for normal. And, oh yeah, it's a good book. And oh yeah, religion's a good thing to have in your life. Not when you see the destruction and the way it undermines people's self-confidence, puts people in positions where they feel unwanted and unloved. I mean, I just dealt with a client today. We had a lengthy conversation. She was in my office. We were over the internet, and the main thing that came out was I'm losing all these friends, and I feel terrible about it since I've lost religion. I don't like people saying, I don't like the word I lost my faith. I found my reason. I think that's
There you go.
Yeah, that's the therapist looking to reframe everything.
Right.
That's that Albert Ellis stuff working right there.
Same thing with virginity too.
Oh yeah.
Like losing. I know exactly where it went.
Yeah, no, I gave it away. I was so eager to give it away.
I got rid of it.
So it's interesting. She finds her reason, and she's just thrilled and joyful to be out of that religion. And yet she's got one or two close friends, and they were very close friends back in the old church. And she is feeling guilty about them no longer being friends, like she's betrayed them in some way, shape, or form. And we were working on what are your underlying assumptions here? What are your underlying beliefs that's driving this feeling of guilt and shame? Because if you feel guilty about something, that's a superficial emotion, if you will. It's a secondary emotion. I want to get down to the primary thing. I want to know, what were you taught? Well, you were taught probably that to leave this religion is to become a heretic, to become a brother or sister of Satan. And that's exactly what she was taught. And now she's still dealing with these underlying beliefs. It's not she's losing friendships. She is not hurting those people. Those people are choosing, and they're saying some nasty, vile things about her. And yet she still loves them. She wants to continue loving them, but they're not loving her back. I would suggest many religionists don't know how to love. All they know how to do is whatever they, be part of the club and put on a smiley.
Well, when your model for ultimate love is at once benevolent and vengeful and angry and jealous, that's going to warp the way you see love. And you're going to be able to justify a lot of really bad things and say, oh, but I'm doing it in love, just like God punished this person in love.
And that's a strong point, because we're told over and over and over, specifically in like the Western Christian church, that not only God is love, but God is the model of love. And that we want to be more Christ-like. We want to be more like God. We want to be more godly. I mean, all of these terms and phrases are just basic to that sort of lifestyle. And yeah, it's a very flawed notion of love. And so even if you like divorce it from like an understanding of faith and all of these ideas, your definition of just the word love, which is one of those,
Yeah.
I mean, we tried to wrestle with it last week. Love is one of those like really undefinable, tricky ideas. And if you're not spending some time really deconstructing it, how can you love? And if you can't love, I mean, that's really fundamental and basic to who we are as humans.
Yep. So I don't know if some of the methodology, if you'd like to talk about that, or do you want to talk about that, or do we?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear. I mean, obviously, I'm hearing a lot of that sort of REBT, cognitive therapy type notions. But yeah, what has been developing this? What's sort of the theoretical underpinnings, or some of the research you've done?
Well, I don't have. That's not part of the workshop, I guess.
Sure, yeah, and I don't mean like clinical trials necessarily, so much as, you know, what led you to this like series of questions and ideas.
Okay, right. Well, the task is how to help people identify those. If I just tell you, hey, look at the underlying beliefs that's causing you all sorts of trouble, you'll look at me cross-eyed like, yeah, what do you mean? You know, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. So I have to find a way, some questions and some exercises to help people reach down inside and pull some things out that might be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to do it in a safe way, and we will do it in a safe way, and we'll be respectful and considerate. And it's your life, it's your business, so it's all be confidential. If you don't want to share anything, you don't have to. That's the issue. It's not we're not here to confess our sins or anything like that. We're here to understand. So what I'm going to ask people to do is I'm going to give them the structure, and that is that we're going to first of all identify some feelings we have, because feelings are a clue as to where we might find beliefs. So, for example, this woman I was working with today, she has feelings of guilt. Well, that guilt feeling is, now we can kind of follow the crumb trail of that guilt feeling and ask, well, I wonder where that guilt feeling might be coming from. Mm-hmm. What would be some of the beliefs that would make you feel guilty? And so she might say, well, I feel guilty because I'm betraying my friends. Where'd you learn that idea? What do you mean by betraying your friends? Well, by betraying my friends, it means I'm not doing what they expect me to do or what they thought I had promised to do. Okay, that's good. Is this good? Was that promise you made when you were 10 years old and got baptized? Well, was that a promise you made consciously or not? And was think, oh, well, maybe, what promise did you make at 10 years old? And, you know, it's like a rabbit hole that once you go down it, you can really start getting rich understanding of the entire belief structure that is supporting this guilt. And if you can get down there and just identify one or two key thoughts, key beliefs, the whole house of cards will start tumbling down. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we can get rid of a massive amount of guilt in a fairly short period of time. And the research has shown, you asked for research earlier, years ago, some of the research around just identifying this and getting to the root of it can really change major behavior and emotional responses very, very quickly. I mean, literally within. So that's what we're shooting for. I'm not guaranteeing anybody anything, and it's not a therapeutic session. I'm not there to be a therapist. I am there to teach them this skill. So yeah, that's the direction.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Please.
Darrel, you use the word guilt a lot. I don't know if I saw the word guilt necessarily too much in the presentation that you shared with us. Is that going to be the direction of this? Do you find that when you're talking about these things, the overwhelming emotion is guilt?
I would say it's extremely common. Mm-hmm. I was using guilt more because of this example I just was mentioning about today, but probably guilt and fear of hell. Those two are really, really big. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's even more difficult to get to the bottom of the fear of hell.
Oh, I'm sure, hole,
yeah. That it is the guilt rabbit hole. But yeah, good question, B. I would say guilt is almost always involved to some degree. I can't even name a religion that doesn't use guilt.
That
Can
is
you?
true.
Maybe pagans or Wicca, they don't. Unitarians, they don't have too much guilt, but pretty much everybody else. Now, if they don't use guilt, though, even worse, they use shame.
Mm.
Shame is a much more insidious, emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
Mormons use shame. Jehovah's Witnesses use shame. Almost all, let's just say all cults use shame. Islam uses tons and tons of shame. It's a great way to control people. But shame is different than guilt. Guilt is an individual emotion based on your own training and programming, whereas shame is a communal emotion. You're afraid people, the entire community enforces the shame part of any emotional response.
Well, I remember when I was growing up, I grew up in a cult-like situation, and I was plagued with guilt as a kid. Like, my family thought there was something actually, like, psychologically, like, wrong with me because I was just constantly guilty about everything. Looking back, I'm like, oh, it was probably what I was being taught in the Bible that was causing all of this. But I was very guilty, but I didn't have the shame that my dad wanted me to have. And I would constantly get into trouble for being too proud, too prideful, not being respectful enough, just because he could see I hadn't internalized the shame of it.
Pride really is the greatest sin in many, many religions. I know certainly around my household. I mean, there was this moment that, like, looking back was so world-shattering and life-changing for me, where my family was having yet another, like, awkward, uncomfortable family dinner, and, you know, me just always being the comedian of the family, always trying to, like, boost everybody's spirits, literally just picked up a bottle of salad dressing and read the stupid ice-breaking question that was on the back, and it was like, go around the table and talk about when the people around you made you most proud. And the idea of, like, a mother and father being proud of their children is in so many ways integral to American culture. I mean, that's like Hallmark commercial type bullshit.
Right.
But even just bringing that up immediately elicited a laugh from everybody, because they were like, oh, so we should talk about when we're at our most sinful. Because the idea of being proud of your children was wrong.
And when you break it down and you ask, okay, what is pride to you?
Yeah.
You realize, oh, it's not shame.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, I mean, succeeding at school, succeeding at sport, I mean, doing anything well was sort of like curbed, because you don't want to be the tallest blade of grass. You don't want to be the first crab to try and crawl out of the pot, because you do have to hold everybody down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very insightful that you being proud is the opposite of being shamed.
Well, yeah, I struggled with that for a long time. I internalized, oh, I am a proud person. I need to be more humble. And then I was like, oh, wait, it wasn't humility that was the problem. It was the fact that I was not ashamed of who I was internally. And that's what they were picking up on. That's a good thing.
That's cool. That was worth the whole show right there.
Well, thanks everybody for joining. Well, I do have more questions, but I do want to remind everybody first that we do have lines open. So make sure to hit us up at 512-686-0279 for, you know, all of your questions about how to recover, how to rebuild, as well as recovering from religion and all of the things that they offer. So we would love to hear from you. But beyond that, Darrel, I know that you and I have talked before about, I guess, the way that religion is built to continue to perpetuate religion, about how shame is such a huge part of that. It's always stood out to me that, you know, the infidel, the outsider, the stranger isn't the number one enemy of most religions. It's actually like the apostate. It's the turncoat, or the person who walks away from religion. And it strikes me that one of the most important parts of recovering from religion is an opportunity to recognize that you're not a monster for turning your back on these beliefs.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. This woman is dealing with the notion that she's the problem, and only because she's just following her heart and seeing that this religion wasn't for her at all. Yeah. there's something happening just on the internet today. I noticed there's been the Atheist Republic has promoted people talking about being ex-Muslim, and so I don't know if you've seen it, but there's all these ex-Muslims, men and women from all over the world, saying I am good without Allah or something like that. Be good without God kind of thing, but it's only I'm awesome without Allah. I'm awesome without Allah.
I like it.
Well, so here's it fits right into what you just said, V. Awesome. Islam means to submit. That's what the word means, to submit. So what they're saying is I'm awesome. In other words, I'm proud without Islam. Or if you are Islamic, you are submissive with Allah. It's the same thing you're saying. And it's a sin in Islam to not submit, to be proud. And I mean, to the point that, especially for women, a woman who does not submit can get killed in many countries. So it's a dangerous thing to be a proud person.
Yeah, well, and I know you're familiar with Hector Garcia and longtime viewers of the show remember when we had him on, but it's that same sort of idea of the alpha male God. This God that you love is supposed to be the dominant force, and so everybody else is supposed to sort of kowtow and feel a sense of shame and kind of keep their eyes down when this like dominant primate type God is in control.
Exactly. Right. I think the interesting thing is to watch the dances that preachers from the pulpit do when they're telling everybody else you can't be proud, and they're up there telling everybody, being about as showy as a peacock.
In giant hats in golden cathedrals, sure.
Yeah, and they're building, mega $1 million cathedrals and all, and yet they are saying, "Oh, and I'm just a humble servant of God." Even as they're stealing everybody's money and probably having sex with the wrong peoples in their church and stuff like that.
Well, I don't want to get too far afield from your workshop, but just free content for everybody. Preachers in Sneakers on Instagram is an absolute gem, where they go through and highlight some of these preachers in mega churches wearing the $2,000 Jordans and the Yeezys that everybody's all excited about, and just how remarkably expensive these shoes are that folks are wearing when they're standing up on stage asking for your donation and your $1 seed that can plant a future for Christ and all of this madness. But in any case, I'm wondering, obviously we're not going to be able to do your workshop, but I didn't know if there was anything that viewers could take home with them, just a quick exercise or even just sort of a moment of meditation on some of these ideas.
Yeah, let me give you one. I think almost anybody can relate to this.
Sure.
What I want you to do is in your own imagination, your mind's eye, imagine yourself standing on a beach in a swimsuit, and you're noticing that people are looking at you. There's lots of people around, but there's also lots of people looking at you. Now, what I want you to do is ask yourself, what are they thinking? And then list all the things those people are thinking as they look at you. And we could just do a little brainstorm here, just between the three of us. What would be some things that you might think they're thinking?
Oh man, anywhere from slutty to prudish, I mean, a couple of inches of fabric can be the decider in that determination. But both of those, I think, immediately come to mind as we tend to just sexualize the bodies of everybody that we pass by.
That's very interesting. Okay. I didn't go in that direction at all, making value judgments necessarily, more just like aesthetic observations.
Yeah, I mean, tattoos, haircut, what's their political affiliation, that kind of thing?
Well, more like, for me, it was interesting because I did this experiment when you sent us the slides, and I was like, oh, these are almost equally good and bad. Like the way it tallied up, it was like, oh, half the people are like, ooh, she's hot. The other half of the people are like, wow, she needs to work out. I was like, that's interesting that like it fell down like half and half. But actually the emotion I felt most was anger, which is interesting and probably something that many, femme or female presenting people do feel, because it was mostly not about me, but more about worrying about what they were thinking and how they were taking advantage of looking at me, if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, no, I definitely relate to that. I'm going to kind of get to my own experience going through the worksheet in a little bit. But I think that makes complete sense, because we do sort of assume that other people have these ideas, and I think there's a lot of room to get angry about that, especially as somebody who's feminine presenting.
Yeah. So V, your anger or whatever emotional response you had would be a response to the thoughts that you were having about what they're thinking. I mean, it gets kind of complicated, doesn't it?
Sure.
But so if you look now at a level 2 and ask and recognize that what you just listed, I mean, if you were doing the sex side and you listed half a dozen ideas, oh, they think I'm fat, or they think I'm out of shape, or they're sexualizing me, or whatever you put down there. Recognize that those are your ideas. You generated them. You didn't go in those people's brains. You didn't mind read anybody. You assumed they were thinking those things. So now what we can now say is those are all things that you may think about yourself. Where did those ideas come from? They didn't come from those people looking at you on the beach, because there were no people looking on your beach. This is an exercise that happened all inside your own brain. And so this is one way to try and reach down and identify a few. For example, they think I'm fat and I'm a bad person, or I'm unhealthy, or any of those kinds of things. All those ideas came out of your head, and you can look at those ideas and ask, where did you learn those things? And what do you want to do about those? And do you want to change any of those ideas? And how do those ideas affect your health and your mental health? And every time you go in public, do you find yourself thinking about what are other people thinking, worrying more about what other people think than doing what you want to do with your life? I mean, it gets pretty, you can really get down to a pretty, I call it the level 2 in the exercise. You get down pretty quickly to a level that you probably not thought about much, I'm guessing. So. And then the next level you could go to is saying, well, I wonder where I learned those things. And I'm just going to give you some things that I've heard from clients as we've explored these kind. For example, my big brother used to call me fatty, and he constantly made fun of the way I looked. Okay, now we're getting to the essence. Where did you actually learn this idea? My gym teacher told me I was too fat to play any sport. Or when I started, for a person who presents as female, when I started growing breasts, the boys made fun of me. So now I'm ashamed of my body. Those are always things that people carry inside their head, and then they impact their ability to live their own life without the judgment in their head of other people. And all those things I just named, I could go on. This happened to me when I got undressed in the locker room as a high school kid. I got made fun of by people in the locker room. And I remember that like it happened yesterday. That has an effect on me and how I view my body, my sexuality, my relationships to other people. I mean, those are all things that started probably in 8th or 9th grade for me, and maybe much earlier. Who knows? So, but that's pretty cool. You can dig down into these pieces and then start changing them, because once I become conscious that I learned to be ashamed of my body in 8th grade gym class. Maybe I haven't thought about that in 50 years or 40 years. I'm only 39, by the way, so that's
Right. You know, this is a theoretical person. I didn't think we were talking about you.
Yeah. So you almost have to walk through this. I can sit here and talk all night, but you really have to walk through it yourself, and you have to ask tough questions, and then just kind of let it set on the back of your mind as you think about it and walk through the day. And I think you'll start getting some revelations from it. Why do I feel odd when I'm in the presence of this one person? Or why do I get upset so easily when I'm reading or looking at TV on some show or something? I mean, every time there's an emotional response, there's an opportunity to dig down and ask, where did that come from?
Sort of examine it and run it to ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say what stood out for me in going through the exercise, and I don't know what this says about, you know, where I'm at in my journey or whatever else, but I was really struck by feeling as if, okay, I think I've got this. Like, I've been, you know, doing this work for a while. I think I see with some amount of insight, like, where these ideas are coming from, and I'm ready to let go of them. But for me, what really stood out was just feeling as if they're constantly being reinforced by other people. You know, I have a wonderful partner who definitely, you know, understands me and sees me for who I am. But, you know, she, of course, has her own work to do and some of her own assumptions from everything that she's carried through an entire lifetime of picking up this kind of crap as we go through life. And that's on top of, you know, what I'm seeing on TV, what I'm hearing from other people. And, you know, as much as we try to surround ourselves with a sex-positive worldview, my question is, once you kind of identify these false assumptions or these irrational ideas that we're all carrying around with us, how do you hold on to that in a world where people are constantly trying to reinforce those old ideas?
Yeah, right. Great question. I think, first of all, once you have to identify them, you probably need to do some basically forgiving yourself.
Sure.
What I've heard is, for example, we have several people on our chat line that have made this comment: how could I be so stupid 50 years of my life? How could I be sucked into this religion for 20 years? And they almost beat themselves up. Well, that's an area for some work. How do you forgive yourself? How do you reframe that and say you were doing the best you could with what you had? You weren't in charge of your own child rearing. That was your parents' job. You may have to forgive your parents a bit. And there's all these kinds of things that come with letting go of the problems, the issues that you've just mentioned. However, here's the hopeful thing, and you can get really bogged down and think, wow, this is really a lot of work. The hopeful thing is, once you've done this exercise 3 or 4 times, it really starts getting easy very fast. At least that's what it appears to me as a teacher of these techniques. I've watched people start challenging in rational behavior therapy, you call it disputing these ideas and replacing them fairly quickly. Now, if there's serious mental health issues, if somebody's got major depression or something like that, this ain't gonna get rid of that. You need to go get a good therapist, maybe some meds. I don't know. This is for everyday challenging of bullshit that you carry around in your head, and you want to get rid of.
I think that's an important thing to just really highlight is we aren't necessarily, I mean, we are to an extent, but we're not necessarily reaching out and talking to people who are struggling with, you know, significant PTSD or major depression, or who are really struggling after coming out of religion or religious trauma. Certainly all of this applies to those folks, but anybody who is just existing in this culture, whether they come from a theistic background or not, is carrying a lot of these kinds of assumptions and these sorts of struggles with them.
Yeah, I'm also curious, just to jump in real quick, how would you suggest, because I know that a lot of this is the internal work of realizing that somebody seeing you a certain way is not reflective of who you actually are. And in theory, to me, as a non-binary person who moves through the world as a woman, that is great. But also, how do you balance that with knowing that you have to be aware how the people around you observe you in order to stay safe? So if I were to just wear what I wanted, do what I wanted, go where I wanted without thinking about how other people perceive me, that would put me in a lot of danger as someone in a female body and as somebody who kind of queer codes. So how do you balance that?
That's a tough question, because in many ways, and yet it's not. I'll tell you this: what you just asked is a common sense thing. It doesn't matter who you are or where you are in our culture. We do have to be aware of how people perceive us. You're not going to go to work and meet a new customer and try to sell them $1 million contract in a swimming suit. I mean, it just ain't going to work that way. So that's the absurd, of course, that's the absurd level of it. But to some degree, we're always aware, and we're social creatures, and we build social networks, and we build social alliances, and all those things they're just a part of what we do. I think what we're talking about here, though, is that there's some things that are unnecessary in the way we perceive or want to be perceived. For example, if I'll give you an example out of my own life.
Sure.
This actually happened to me. I'm a 30-year-old psychologist, fresh out of my PhD studies, got a great job, have a great supervisor, and he is one of my mentors. I even dedicated my second book to him. That's how important he was in my life. Okay, well, I'm sitting in his office. I go in his office once a day, and we love to chat. He was one of the most intelligent human beings I've ever met in my life. And I'm sitting there chatting with him. And after about 3 or 4 months of him being on the job and him being my boss, and I'm going in almost daily and talking about issues that we have to deal with. And I was a clinical supervisor for an institution. And it just dawned on me, I'm treating him like my father. I'm reacting to him like his father. And I started feeling like I was looking for his approval as I looked for my father's approval. And I was asking him, I mean, it was like a ton of bricks hit me all at once. Damn, I'm a full-grown adult and I'm sitting here acting like he's my father. That was a pretty big realization to me at that point in my career. And it made me change my whole behavior. I came back to him, literally went home, sat down, made some notes, got an appointment with him and sat down, and we talked for like an hour and a half one day. And he told me he'd already observed that in me. He's a good psychologist himself. But so this dialogue and this realization allowed me to totally change the way I interacted with this person I respected a lot, because we were really more peers than, I mean, it wasn't my father, obviously.
Sure.
He was my supervisor, but he wasn't a PhD psychologist. I was the PhD in the room. I mean, it's crazy, but those kinds of realizations are important. Now, I still had to wear a suit to work. They didn't allow me to wear my swimming suit to work or anything like that. So I did have to be aware and cognizant of how he perceived me and how other people perceive me. That's a different issue. Is that I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, do I hear what you're saying is that just by sort of bringing these things to light, just by being aware of them and kind of talking through them, that you're naturally diffusing them? Is that a accurate characterization of what you're saying?
Yeah, right. I just think that's an example of what that can happen.
Yeah.
And so, V, I don't know what areas you might be looking at, but as you move into an environment, do you find yourself responding in a way that you don't like? For example, find yourself being more submissive if you're in a certain group of people and you say, well, I don't like that about myself. I think I could be more assertive. I can stand up straighter. I can answer questions more directly. So the question would be, what is my underlying belief structure that makes me feel unsafe in that environment? And that would be something to explore. Now, maybe an environment that you don't want to be assertive in. I'm not going to walk into a biker gang that's got MAGA hats on and say, you guys are a bunch of idiots.
Probably good for your longevity there.
Yeah, so there's a certain amount of awareness of how other people see us that's important to keep in mind. I definitely hear that, while also wanting to free ourselves of these obligations of what we sort of assume we're supposed to be, or how we assume people see us. Well, incredibly interesting stuff. I do want to go ahead and jump on the phone since we've got Stefan waiting. Stefan, what can we do for you tonight?
Hi, great to be on. So I have a bit of a predicament, and I'm hoping you guys could help me on it. So me and my girlfriend, or my fiance, have been trying stuff out for at least about probably 4 months or so.
Okay. What is stuff, broadly speaking?
Screw it. Well, I fingered her. I've rubbed on her. She's rubbed on me, and she's given me a blowjob.
Okay. I don't necessarily prescribe to like a baseball worldview of sexuality, but it sounds like we're avoiding intercourse and kind of rounding our way through the bases. Is that sort of an accurate? Okay.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is, well, at least for me, I would say is she's made it very clear that she does not want to have sex until after we're married, which I don't really hold that against her. But at the same time, it's like she's got some moves. Come on now. But my biggest issue is I think it's more of like a shy thing. Like, I love her to death, and I don't want to tell her, hey, you're doing this wrong. But at the same time, I'm more experienced than she is, like way more experienced, and I want to let her know, hey, so whenever you're doing that second thing, this is how it's supposed to go. But at the same time, I think to myself, well, crap. I don't know if I just don't know how to explain that to her without sounding like a bit of an asshole.
Yeah, let me decode your language a little bit, and then I'll let y'all jump in. Is what I understand you to be saying is that you would like to tell her the best way to give a blowjob, but feel uncomfortable saying that out loud to her. Is that what we're talking about? Okay, all right, because there's a little bit of hemming and hawing, and I get it. I understand that. But, okay, so that's what we're talking about, is how to communicate your sexual interest or desires or just what feels good to you. So I'll let y'all take that on.
Yeah. My first instinct would be, do you have a speaker on, Stefan?
Actually, I've got my headphones in, and I'm outside. Nobody else can hear me.
Okay. We've gotten a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, we'll try to sort out that audio issue, but power through.
Yes. So my first thought would be to possibly not say you should be doing it like this or anything to do with her, and just say what you like or what you don't like.
Not right or wrong, but what I enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, I really liked it when you did this, and I guarantee you she's going to do that more. Or, I don't really like that very much. Can we try something else? So focusing it on what you like and what you would prefer instead of, this is the correct way to do it or the incorrect way.
Take some of the pressure and the moralizing away from it.
Yeah. Also, maybe go to a couple classes together. You could go one for cunnilingus. One for
absolutely.
it could be a fun bonding experience to go together for his and hers situations. How
to word this correctly? She is an amazing woman, and she does pretty much anything that she can and will do to do that. Again, it's just my shyness and not wanting to upset her too much. It's just how to. We have whenever it comes to, telling each other about stuff like that, like, hey, this is what I like more or whatever. It's a little bit harder because, to be honest, I mean, she's 23, I'm 25, and I'm the only one in her life that's ever, can be like gone that far with her or tried to go that far with her and do what it is. And I mean, I guess as stupid as this may sound, it's just like one of those, okay, I'm shy type of things. And I don't want to tell her that she's doing it wrong. Or even, hey, so this is what I like, but at the same time, we could do this. It's just one of those, shit, you're doing this great. And then I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to tell her this because she might feel bad about herself. And it gets really, 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 really fucking jumbled up, which honestly is mainly my fault because I'm too constrainuous and I've never been with a woman such as her. So yeah, if that makes any sense. Wow.
Darrel, did you want to jump in with this one?
Well, I'm curious. How much religion is involved in this relationship?
Well, I am an atheist, completely like a strong atheist, and she is, she may not want to admit it, but she, I think, is an agnostic theist, borderline atheist.
Okay, so she's still doing some deconstructing, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Huh. Well, we're not here to do therapy on you or her. I would say that maybe reading, I liked what V recommended, is going to some classes. And if she's truly an agnostic atheist or whatever, not super religious, then she probably would be okay with going to those kind of classes. Right. I did hear something from you several times. And this is really what I'm interested in and what we're talking about here today is you and your thought processes as opposed to whoever you might be involved with. Because if it's not this person, it might be another person. And one thing you've said many times is I'm shy. And I'm not saying people aren't naturally shy. I think we have natural inclinations towards introversion or shyness. But I'm also hearing that there's probably some beliefs about shyness, about asserting yourself that you hold. That if you say certain things, assert yourself, then that makes you a bad person or a pervert or whatever. I don't know. What are some of those beliefs that you've got?
Well, that honestly, I very, very honestly, I think you kind of hit it directly on the spot. I was brought up as a Christian and with a couple of beliefs, and I am at the point in my way of thinking of I don't want to sound like a dick. Like I don't want to be one of those guys who tells her this is how it's supposed to go. I don't want to do that. And I feel like if I were to tell her, hey, it was great, but this is what you can improve on. It scares the crap out of me because I'm scared that I'm going to come off as one of those guys who, only thinks about himself or even, like you said, it's too much of a pervert. Because like I said, this is definitely not the first time this has happened. I've been with other girls, and let's be honest, I've watched a lot of porn in my day and so far, and I know what's supposed to happen, but at the same time, I don't want to come off as this is how honestly I do like it. Would you be able to work with that? It's one of those things I feel like I have to get over the whole, look, she knows you're not a jackass. She knows you're not a dick. She knows you're not, a pervert or one of those controlling assholes. She knows that you're a good person. You just need to communicate with her. But at the same time, I think, well, shit, I don't want her to feel bad. I want her, to feel like she's done a great job whenever she has. But at the same time, I have comments that could work better. But, oh my God, just don't make her feel bad. Don't make her feel bad, whatever you do. Because she's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think V hit the nail on the head. And
Yeah.
one word I would eliminate from your vocabulary, and that's the word but. You did a really good job. I really like this, but the minute you say but, you've just thrown everything away that you just said.
Everything before that doesn't count. Yeah.
Right.
Just tell her what you like and you enjoyed it, and say thank you. That was great. I really appreciated that. I enjoyed that. And leave it at that.
Yeah, never mind previous partners or what you've seen in porn or the way a blowjob is supposed to go, and I would also just encourage you to feel more comfortable talking about these things generally in whatever form or fashion that takes for you. I mean, for me, that meant listening to a lot of podcasts and things like this show where people just openly and regularly and routinely talked about sex until I could say words like BJ in a comfortable manner. Not that that's everything we're talking about, but I do think it's relevant. But I think that V completely has it right here, that it's about letting her know, not that you can do better or that you're doing wrong, but I like X, I like Z, and just kind of communicating that, hey, it'd be great if you would, or last time you did, and that was, wonderful. Can we try this? Yeah, absolutely.
So real quickly, if I may, should I say that before she does that, or should I just randomly bring it up in a conversation?
I would say, depending on the nature of the circumstances, really during. Sex is about communication in so many ways. It doesn't ruin the mood to be like, hey, you're on my hair. Hey, can you move to the left a little bit? Or, oh, yeah, I love it when you do that. I would almost assume just from this conversation, I don't mean to tell you about you, but I don't know that there's probably a whole lot of communicating when y'all are having sex. And I think that's a really important thing to have in any relationship. So feel more comfortable being vocal. Give out those oohs and ahs and yas and oh gods if you want to,
Also, just speaking as somebody who has given a blowjob or two before, I always appreciate it when I'm doing my thing and then I get more direction from the other person. And they're like, ooh, can you do this now? I was like, oh, yes, thank you for giving me something else to do. I was wondering if I was doing the right thing, and now I know what to do next. So especially if she isn't very experienced in this area, she might really appreciate a little bit of direction, just a suggestion. Ooh, let's try this now.
Right, yeah, and she so far for being a person who hasn't done this before being with me, she's actually pretty good at directing it. Like I said, she's one of those really, really amazing types of women that I love, and like you guys said, I just have to get over the whole, oh God, I'm scared to say this, or just saying it in the correct way at the right time and communicating with her and telling her, this is awesome. Can you, oh yeah, right there, right. Stuff like that.
And you can ease into saying, hey, I like it when you lick my balls, by saying, hey, oh yeah, that feels good, and ooh and ah, and just bringing your voice into the bedroom or car parking lot or backyard or whatever it happens to be. Just involving your voice in your sex life is a hugely important step in feeling comfortable expressing these things.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be all at once either.
Yeah,
just the first time, just experiment at saying what you liked. Maybe the first couple times just being, oh, you're so good at X or so good at Y. And then, after the second or third time, then say, I loved that. Ooh, let's try this now. Yeah, you don't have to get from point A to point B right away.
Right, and yeah, I've actually told her multiple times, I can't even count, that after we do get married, I'm telling you right now, we're gonna have a great sex life. It's awesome. But yeah, thank you so much for all the advice, and I mean, this was, oh my God, I love you guys.
Stefan, let me throw something in here.
Okay.
I think it's important because you've used the word marriage several times, and I just want to challenge you to recognize that if you can't communicate now, it ain't going to happen after you get married. If you can't, this is a skill, and it's a skill you personally need to work on and develop, whether it's with her or somebody else. Getting good at it is going to make you a better partner for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
And I would, yeah, you may have a great sex life after you get married, but if you can't communicate now, I don't know how that's going to happen. Well, I've never seen it.
You are correct. You are correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Like I said, thank you guys so much for the help and the advice, and yeah, this really freaking helped. Thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Well, best of luck to you. Many great blowjobs and wedding nights in your future, I suppose.
Just one wedding night. Hopefully.
Just one wedding night, lots of sex at that wedding night is kind of what I was hoping for. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
you have a
fun.
great night. I mean, yeah. Well, okay, sure.
Sorry, editor. I'm going to nitpick a little bit. I think a lot of this also stems from the fact that for some reason we think that we have to be inherently or like innately good at sex right away. Mm-hmm. And like if you don't know exactly what to do with every person you're with right away without any verbal cues, then somehow you're bad at sex and that's a horrible thing.
Yeah, as if people don't like get better at dancing with their partner over time or, whatever it might be. I mean, even something as simple as like going for a hike. There's a rhythm to hiking with somebody else. I mean, if you hold back a branch and then you let it go and it snaps them in the face, or, there's just these unspoken things or spoken things that we begin to understand, and that chemistry can take a little while to develop, and it's not going to change if you don't talk about it. So.
Right. And no two bodies are alike. I mean, they're similar, but alike. Yeah.
And no body is the same today as it was yesterday. And certainly as we age and grow, our bodies are changing, our partners' bodies are changing, our partners may be changing themselves, and all of these things are constantly adjusting. So there's a learning curve, and that's part of the fun of the journey.
Exactly.
So with that, I think we've got time for maybe just one last call, and so we'll jump on with Judah, if y'all are ready. Judah, what can we do for you tonight? Hey, howdy, hey. Maybe not. Can you hear us? Okay, well, I'm going to put...
Hello?
Oh,
yeah, hey, what can we do for you tonight?
Yeah, all I'm saying is women are evil, man.
Okay, fair enough. And it's been a great conversation with y'all tonight.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed this idea of, I guess... breaking our sexuality down to its core elements a little bit. Really going down to these assumptions and having an opportunity to rebuild it from the ground up, because it does feel like so many ways in our society, our sexuality, who we're supposed to be interested in, what we're supposed to do to express that interest, the way our marriage is supposed to look, because all relationships, of course, are headed towards marriage. I mean, they're just all of these assumptions, and the more we begin to deconstruct them and have meaningful, thoughtful examinations of them, the more we can make them look like us and look like the life that we want to lead. So this is incredibly exciting material that you're working with, Dr. Ray.
Well, I want to say one last restatement, and that is, I think people should kind of almost use this as a mantra when they're looking at their sexuality and their bodies, and that is that this is the only body you're ever going to get. And your happiness is not dependent on how other people see your body.
I think you said happiness, but I just wanted to clarify because it very much sounded like penis, which is also kind of true, but not necessarily universal.
No, I said happiness.
Okay, your happiness is your responsibility. Got it.
Yeah,
Got it.
maybe the internet got involved there. So yeah, it's the only body you're ever going to get, and people act like, well, I'm going to get another. I mean, religion tells you that you're going to get a new body or whatever. But once, if you get rid of that idea and say, look, no matter what I am, this is all I'm going to get. Let me do the best I can with what I've got, and stop looking at other people's bodies. Stop wishing you had a model's body or a bodybuilder's body, and stop wishing you could have 5 orgasms when you only get 1 a week or whatever. There's always something that you can be envious of other people, and that is destructive. That's undermining your own confidence and undermines your own happiness in this world, in this life, in this body. So that's the most important message I want people to hear tonight, if possible.
Absolutely.
100%.
Something to go home with. And of course, recoveringfromreligion.org. Also Recovering From Religion on Facebook. Of course, all of the incredible ACA programs. We hope that as this show wraps up, that people will be jumping onto the Discord server, joining us on Facebook and all of these different places so we can keep the conversation going and continue to engage with some of these ideas. Anything else come to mind?
Just one thing, kind of going off what Dr. A was saying just now. Something that struck me the other day is that we talk about our brain and our body.
Sure.
And like the brain body, we have both. But the brain is part of the body. It's just another organ in your body. And if you are a materialist, like I am, then you believe that everything in your brain is what
your consciousness, however we define that. Yeah.
Right. So if you love anything about yourself, your dreams, your ambitions, your goals in life, that you can solve puzzles really well, like any of these things, then you love your body because your body is what is creating those things. You are your body. You are your brain. And if you love anything about yourself, by default, you love your body.
Love that. Okay.
Good. Well, I love it.
Some great words to write out by. I just want to thank you all both for being here. Dr. Ray, especially for joining us. And we'll look forward to hearing more about the fall excursion after y'all have that. Again, people can continue to sign up on the website. Are there any spots left? I know you're kind of having to outsource.
Yes, there are spots left.
Okay.
We are limiting it, but we're not going to limit it yet.
Okay.
We could probably take another 10, but after that, we're probably going to shut it down.
Okay, well, great. Some seats still available, and of course, all the incredible resources and donation and volunteer opportunities in Recovering From Religion. Beyond that, I suppose it's just time to go ahead and thank everybody for joining us and to encourage them to go and give themselves a big old orgasm. Or, better yet,
give somebody else one.